Thank you. Let's go to part two, emotional intelligence. And let me share my screen to you. Let me start with the meaning of emotional intelligence is the capacity of recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves and for managing emotions well in ourselves and in our relationships. So, this is the meaning of emotional intelligence. Let me move to the table which will help you at your workplace. The five dimensions, as per Mr. Goldman, is self-awareness, which is a self-understanding, knowledge of a true feeling at the moment. Self-management, a very important component in emotional intelligence, handles one's emotions to facilitate rather than to hinder the task at work. It shakes off negative emotions and you can be more constructive, help yourself and others. Self motivation, stay the course toward desired goal, and it helps you to overcome negative emotional impulses and it delays gratification to attain the desired outcome. Empathy, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes in layman term, and it is very important component because it helps you to understand and to be sensitive to the feeling of others, and you are being able to sense what others feel and want. Social skills, the ability to read social situations, smooth in interacting with others and forming networks, able to guide others' emotions and the way they act. So these five dimensions have to be applied or can be applied for you to increase your emotional intelligence and help others. Another important component or a part of emotional intelligence is self-efficacy. It is, let me go into the definition. It is how well one can execute courses of action required dealing with prospective situations. That means that the situations at hand. It also refers to an individual's conviction or confidence to his or her ability to mobilize or motivation, cognition, resources, and a course of action. Self-efficacy can directly affect the choice behaviors. I'll give an example here. A decision will be made based on how efficacious and the person feels towards the option to say in a say like taking a work assignment or even a career field, because it really involves a lot of choices. Motivational effort, for example, people will try harder and give more efforts on tasks where they have high self-efficacy. Then those efficacy judgment is low. Perseverance, it is determination. Those with high self-efficacy will bounce back, be resilient when the meeting problems or even failure, whereas those with low self-efficacy tend to give up when the obstacle appears. Facilitative thought pattern. It is the efficacy of judgment which influence self-talk. It is, and then the fifth one is vulnerability to stress. Example, Those with low self-efficacy tend to experience stress and burn out because they expect failure, whereas those with high self-efficacy enter into the potential stressful situation with confidence and assurance, and thus are able to resist stressful reaction. Work-life stress. What do we mean by stress? It is the interaction of individual with environment. It can be the environment in the house, around the house, or the actual environment, it's the weather. When they come, but this environment, I'll give you an example, like it is adaptive. It is how adaptive a person or how he mediates by an individual difference through a psychological process. There is a consequence of an external workplace action situation, even that places excessive psychological and physical demand upon a person. Life stress. Life stress is a condition arising from interaction of people and their jobs, and characterized by change within people that force them to deviate from their normal functioning. So this too involves the work-life stress. What causes, these two definitions simplify this for you. What causes stress? The first is extra organizational work-life stresses. Let us look at those parts. Organizational stress. Let me explain to you a little about extra organizational work-life stresses. It is generally recognized that the person's family has a big impact on an individual's performance. Illness of a family member can act as a significant stressor to the individual. There is even research indicating that in dual carrier families, that means both husband and wife working, are stressed out. Like the husband may transmit this stress to the wife. Relocating the family because of the transfer, a promotion can lead to stress. This situation reduces time for recreation and family related activities. And for professional women, a particular sources of stress have been identified as discrimination in workplace, stereotyping the marriage work interface, and social isolation. So this is part of extra organizational work life stresses. Let's look at the organizational stresses. Under this, under the main component is the group stresses. So what are group stresses? Group stresses can be a potential source of stress. Group stresses can be categorized into three parts or three areas, you can say. Lack of group cohesiveness. If an employee is denied the opportunity for the group cohesiveness because of the task designed, because the supervisor does things to prohibit or limit it, or because the other member of the group shut the person out, this can be very stressful to the person. Lack of social support. Employees are greatly affected by the support of one or more members of the cohesive group. By sharing their problems and joys with others, they are comfortable. Intra-individual, interpersonal, and intergroup conflict. Intra-individual conflict refers to the conflict within an individual arises from frustration, numerous roles which demand equal attention. So this is how it is. Sorry, let me move here. Effects of stress. Now let's move to the next part. It is the effect of stress. Stress is not automatically bad for an individual or their organizational performances, because sometimes the most serious consequences of stress relates to performance. It is said the moderate level of stress stimulate the body and increase its ability to react. Individuals then they perform better, but too much stress placed is unattainable, like example unattainable demands or constraints on a person, which results in lower performance. As part of the effect of stress, let me go into the role concept. Role is a position one occupies in a social system and is defined by the functions one performs in the response to the expectation of of significant members of the social system. It is like a role and an office, but they are two sides of the same coin, but are nevertheless two separate concepts. They go hand in hand. Excuse me. Let's move to role and the individual. The role, when a person becomes a member of a social system, he or she receives certain expectations from other members and respond to this, at the same time projecting his or her own expectations into the role. One may react very positively and with great satisfaction to others' expectations and fulfill them to the best one's ability. Such a reactive approach will help the individual take on a role effectively. In contrast, another individual may use the expectation he or she has from the role. This is called reflexive role expectation that develop a role and behavior. This is a proactive approach to role performance. What is role system? An organization is considered as a role system in which the individual is part of a role system comprising a role space and a role set. A role is a useful concept in an understanding the integration of an individual within the social system and in planning the organizational effectiveness. Role space. The concept of role is central to the organization. When you work in an organization, they give you a certain role to play in that. So the term self refers to interpretation made by a person about the term I. That self can be defined as the experience of an identity arising from the person's interactions with external reality things. Role set. The individual's role in the organization is defined by the expectation of other significant roles and those of the individual himself or herself. Role sets are subsystems or interrelationships between a particular role and the other roles in an organizational system. Role linkage is an important concept in role satisfaction and role conflict. Role is a very useful concept in understanding the dynamics of integration of an individual. The concept of role efficacy. The performance of a person working in an organization depends on his own potential effectiveness technical competence, managerial experiences, etc., as well as the design of the role that he performs in an organization. It is the integration of these two, person and the role, that ensures the person's effectiveness. Unless a person has a requisite knowledge, technical competence, and skills required for the role, he cannot be effective. Equally important is how the role which he occupies in the organization is designed. If the role does not allow the person to use his competence, and if he constantly feels frustrated in the role, his effectiveness is likely to be low. The integration of a person and a role is where the latter is able to fulfill the needs of the individual. When the individual in turn is able to contribute to the evolution of the role. Let's go to the next concept under role making. It is self role integration. Every person has strengths, experience, technical training, special skills, and some unique contributions to make. When his role provides him with great opportunity for using such a strength, his role efficacy is likely to be higher. This is called self-role integration. The self or the person, the role that get integrated within the through the possibility of a person's use of his special strengths in the role. Second, proactivity. A person who occupies a role responds to the various expectations that people in the organization have that role. This certainly gives him a satisfaction, if so, it also satisfies others in the organization. Creativity. It is not only an initiative that is important for efficacy, it is an opportunity to be creative and try new and unconventional ways of solving. Confrontation. In general, if the people in an organization avoid problems or shift those to others, their role efficacy will be low. The tendency to confront problems and find relevant solution contributes towards efficacy. Work, that is under creativity, what I've just explained, and confrontation. Let's move to work-family conflict. The demands and pressures of work and family may give rise to work-family conflict in an individual. An employee may be faced with work-family conflict. He or she has to attend the parent-teacher meeting in the child's school, or when she or he has to attend a doctor's appointment for an aging parent. At the same time, the demand and pressures of work make it difficult for the employee to stretch time for such activities. So let's look at 4 types of role conflicts. The first one is intra-sender conflict, which occurs when one person is asked to accomplish objectives that are apparent, which cause conflict. The next is intra-sender conflict. Now there are 2 types what I've explained. The first one is which one person. Then the second one is the intra-sender conflict, which occurs when 2 or more senders give incompatible directions. Then the third one is inter-role conflict, which results when 2 different roles those are played are or cause conflict. Person role conflict, which occurs when the roles expected by the organization are in conflict with the basic values of the individual. That is the fourth one. So this is person and role conflicts. Types of work family conflict. Let us look into it. There are three major types. The first one is time-based conflicts. This arises when time spent on a role performance in one domain preludes time spent in other domain because of depletion of energy or stress. The next one is strain-based conflicts. This arises when the strain in one role affects an employee's performance on another role. This type of conflict does not connote conflicting demands. Rather, it occurs when the demands from one domain cause tensions, anxiety, fatigue, or dissatisfaction for the employee, thereby reducing his or her personal resources of energy and physical or mental capacity. So these are the types. The third one is behavior-based conflicts. This occur when there is an incompatibility between the behavior patterns and that are desirable in the two domains, and the employee is unable to adjust his or her behavior when moving from one domain to another. This conflict between work and family is viewed in the terms of interference of the demands from the family role on performance of an individual's work role. Most firms developed HR practices that would provide the employee with time off for fulfilling family demands. Work demands are equally likely to interfere with an individual's capacity to fulfill family life demands. Work family culture is the next part. Work life family culture can be defined as a shared assumptions, beliefs, and values regarding the extent to which an organization support and values the integration of employees' work and family. A family supportive organizational culture refers to the global perception that employees have regarding the extent to which the organization is family supportive. According to one of the researchers, Thompson, he suggested three components of supportive work and family culture there, and they are as follows: organizational time demands, the extent to which there are expectations for long hours of work and for prioritizing work over family. So those are the demands. The second is perceived career consequences. Refers to the degree to which the employees perceive positive or negative career consequences of using work family benefits. The third is the managerial support. The extent to which the individual managers are sensitive to and accommodating of the employees' family needs. So with this, we come to an end of part 2. Thank you very much.